and welcome. Welcome to another week and another Monday. It's Joyful Monday. I am Joy Ruffin. My work is as a leadership and style consultant, a signature style specialist, executive producer, TV host, and podcaster, and professional speaker. And today, oh my goodness, aren't I excited all the time? I'm always excited, and more so today, because I have a featured guest that you are going to find out is so full of information. I met him through video, and we're going to start with that. So I just want to give you a little bit about, because we're going to be talking about faith, no matter which umbrella you're under, what your higher source might be. But my featured guest today, he supported me to learn more about video, because you know, and I know, we all know, that video rules supreme now. It always has. And he's going to share with us a little bit about how he's doing that. It's being used everywhere by most everyone. And it's because we all want what? To be seen, heard, and valued. But what we're going to be talking about today is how do you want to be seen, valued, and appreciated for you? Because so many of us have trekked off in the wrong direction. And this is what we're going to be talking about. There's no blame, there's no bashing, but yet we're going to discuss it in a way that hopefully will ignite and inspire something within you. And before we go any further, let me just say to you that it's an honor to bring you each and every week featured guest speakers, male and female, on this Joyful Monday, and ladies only on Leading Ladies, Leaving Legacies. Going to be making some changes here, been about changes, and we'll be discussing them with you as we move forward here. I have a webinar that's coming up on February the 11th. I want you to make note of that. I'll put up a poster much later at the reset, and you can take a screenshot or a snapshot. But more importantly, it's about you now. It's all about you. And how are you showing up? How are you wanting to be shown? Whatever it is that you're all about. So before I go any further, let me share with you a little bit about my featured guest speaker. This man, you know, the words king and queen especially, it's thrown around everybody. Everybody's a queen and everybody's a king. Well, I beg to differ in a loving way, because I don't throw judgment or shade. But this man, this gentleman, this gent that we're going to be speaking with today, I think the word king fits in so many ways because his humbleness and his professionalism comes through on everything that he says and does. Damon Jones, nice easy name to remember, right? Damon, I'm going to read a little bit about his bio because this is what we're going to be talking about. And he'll mention and share with a little bit about his corporation Video, which is how I met him. But he speaks about the 3 pillars that he's all about. 3 pillars, and we'll talk about that, which are all based on his Christian faith. His family and his mission helping others to transform their lives. He has been a devoted husband for 24 years. Woo-hoo. That's wonderful. A little rare these days. Maybe we'll speak briefly about that. He's a proud father of 3 children, adult children, and a grandfather to 6. This man, this gent among gentlemen, you are just you are wanting to, especially after he comes up, just sit back and relax and make yourself comfortable however you do it, because I want to devote as much time as I can to Damon. And I'm going to ask my engineer now to bring up my featured guest speaker, Damon Jones. Damon, come on up.
Wow, that's awesome. I'm just so excited to be here. Thank you for the invite.
Well, I'm excited to have you here because you know that I know that you're a happily married man, and so am I, woman. But when I meet people who have the same kind of a kinship to what honor and loyalty and love is really all about, I bow, I applaud, and I commend them. And you are one. And you don't have to come here because you wouldn't wear it anyway, a crown. But I really think that what you're doing is great. Tell us a little bit about the work that you're doing now, how it aligns with the video work and how I met you. And then we're going to get into the 3 pillars and other things about what we want to share with the audience.
Okay. The umbrella of my corporation, it's Purpose Enterprise Group. So Purpose Video Services is under that umbrella, along with Purpose Real Estate Company. In regard
Hmm.
to the video service of how we reconnected, that service is the main service that I really have the passion for on another level. But when we met, you needed a video, of course, to show people exactly who you are and what you do on a deepest level, trying to reach your ideal audience. So that's the main thing I wanted to share about with the video production service. The key with the video production is the fact that many businesses out there, they don't understand that when they put content out there, many times they don't know who their ideal audience is. So what I've been able to do is help others really identify that ideal audience so that they can create the proper content to be on the to find out exactly where the ideal audience hangs out, and then create content that's going to solve a problem for them to get them to take an action that they need them to take, which is usually call, email, but the ultimate goal is to get them to make that decision in the end. So that's the key to the video content that I create. And it always starts with a digital footprint analysis, which means I look at it from a perspective of a potential client saying, okay, who is this person? You know, we all do a Google search, we're checking for reviews, we're doing everything. But if there's no digital footprint, which means if you don't have any content, any kind of platforms out there, it's going to make a person not as, I should say, comfortable enough even taking a step in that direction. Because if we don't have at least a website, even though it's far beyond the website, that's the digital storefront. So that's where it all begins when it comes to the
Hmm. I love that, Damon. And I love the way that you express that, because one of the things I can share with you, I'm coming to you again for another video, because what you said to me, not only was the video brilliantly done, you mentioned that word to me, which I was familiar with, but the way that I saw the video when you completed, you said so many don't do seamless work. And the work that you presented to me was seamless. I wasn't quite sure at the time, and I'm always segueing and making changes about the ideal audience and the digital footprint and all of that, but I'm ready now, and I'm going to get back to you. So thank you for that, because the seamlessness of how you do your work and the professionalism is what brought me and keeps me with you and aligned with you. But let's talk about what you're doing now, because this thing called faith and hope and headed in the right direction and finding one's purpose and being aligned with it, that's where you're at. So how did you get into this work? Because we're talking about you're being rejected, you're being abandoned, and you're being bullied. Is that what bullied? Is that what brought you to this work that you're doing now?
That is
Somewhat.
so correct. That is right on point, Joy, because the main thing that brought me to this is the pain and the trauma that I experienced in my childhood.
Mhm.
The picture that you see behind me, of course, you see the current, and then you see the gentleman behind. That was the old me. That started because my biological father abandoned me as a child, and I had so much anger and rage and frustration from that, that there was a lot of collateral damage that came from that. And when I say collateral damage, yes, it was my immediate family. In addition to that, it pushed me into pornography, various other vices, alcohol
Mhm.
abuse, and
Mhm.
it kept me from seeing my role and allowing God to address my pain from my past. My pride would not allow me to do that. So,
Mhm.
with the first portion of my pillar is being rejected, abandoned, and bullied, to becoming the bully, which is the gentleman you see behind me. And now
Mhm.
I'm healed, transformed, and walking in the freedom that's always been available for me. Because what was hindering me was the fact that I was people pleasing, people chasing, worrying about what everybody was thinking about me. But the root cause was the abandonment of my father. So that the picture you see behind is my first book, Abandonment, the Plague of Most Men. Learn
Mhm.
how to break your cycle and rewrite your story. That subtitle is there because before I acknowledged my responsibility in my past with my father, I abandoned my own son because of my pride and the past that I refused to address. So, with
Amen.
that, I've reconciled with my son because God sent me to my father's grave to forgive him. And I didn't understand that. The forgiveness had to happen for me to begin my healing process, because my father didn't want to have a word to speak to me. He didn't want to speak to me before he passed, before
Mm.
before I found out that I had 6 brothers and sisters I never knew I had.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
So with my wife, I have to interject there
Yes.
is the fact that we've been married 24 years, but the transparent and vulnerable aspect of that is that 18 of the 24 years, because of my abandonment, I didn't know how to be a man. So I was not leading my household according to what I was supposed to because of my childishness inside. So the gentleman you see in the picture behind me, yes, the large exterior, but I was a child looking for his father, uh, people pleasing, doing whatever I could do to get people to like me. And in essence, I didn't even love myself. How can I love
Mm,
myself when I had never really been taught love? Yes, my mother raised me, but I needed a man to teach me how to become a man, not just any man, but a godly man that's looking
mm,
at women as their sister, looking at older
mm,
women as their mother versus looking at them
mm,
as objects. So that's what, even with the pornography aspect. I saw my
mhm.
first porn at 5 years old, which blew my mind in a way where it took me down a path that was an unquenchable fire. So I'm sharing the kind of a backstory because now I become the person I needed in my struggle because now I'm walking in that freedom that's always been available for me. And I realize that everything that I've gone through, it wasn't for me, but for the people that I'm helping now, especially men, because in this world, many of us isolate ourselves. And in many
Wow.
cases, the pride, the ego, everything else saying, I'm good. No, you're not good. Address those issues,
Damon.
address those
Damon.
things.
Mm. You
Mm,
you are preaching to the choir because you know and I know and everyone knows. Some of us can't acknowledge it. This big word that you started off with, several of them, but abandonment for so many of us, however it came about in our upbringing, that we hover and keep within us and we wear the mask. And
yes.
sooner than later, if you really want to evolve and become awake and aware so that you can share your journey with others so it will benefit them, you don't grow. So, what I love about the work that you're doing and all of that brilliant information that you just shared with us is that you're all about being honest with yourself, truthful, putting the pride aside, and moving forward to support all of those that you see and feel without judgment to support. There's nothing bigger or better than that. How did you get around? I heard what you shared with us about the story about your father, but by becoming the bully, how, well, we know how that came about, but when you were there, what happened in that you became the bully? What, and now that you're doing this reverse work and supporting others, how does that support them in knowing? Well, it does, what you're about and what you're doing. Share a
Okay.
little bit if that makes sense to you about how you're going about that now.
Okay. So just a little backstory with the bullying aspect, because I was a quiet child. I was an
Ah,
automatic magnet to that.
usually.
So when I got in the military, the picture you see behind me was actually me in the military.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I hung around various people that were from, they were in a gang before they came in. So in order to connect with them on a deeper level, I just fell within to that mold because I grew up around gang members, but I was never in a gang. But
Mm-hmm.
they
Mm-hmm.
showed me the attention that I wanted, so I became who they needed me to be in my eyes, in my immaturity, the bully. So if they said, "Hey, go hit this person or go do something," I would do it because I wanted the approval, because I thought that they like me. They really embrace me, but I didn't realize at a deeper level it was me searching for my biological father. The love and the nurturing that I would never experience, it was calling me from within. So that's
I,
in a nutshell how I became the bully, because I
yeah.
refused to allow anybody else to bully me again in my eyes. So I was always in an attack stance. If somebody was perceived to even look at me a certain way, or I'm thinking they're going to say something, I said, in my mind, I'm saying, okay, you'll never bully me again. But now I look back, I'm like, wow, I was such an immature, hurting, lonely male. And I say male because we have the body parts, but that doesn't make us men. What
No,
makes us men
no.
is when we own
Mm,
up to our responsibility
yes.
in spite of what was not there for us or who wasn't there for us. Yes, it happened, but what are we going to do with that information? It doesn't define you unless you let it.
Well, you speak to, and I just applaud you that you do the male species gender, and I'm speaking to the female because there's so many ways that our own insecurities are covered up and masked in ways. You use the word bully, and for women not so much so that, but there are other ways that they use that bully in the female sense. So this is why I know for sure that we all have to find our own way to heal whatever that pain and that suffering might have been, because after a while we have to take responsibility for ourselves. And
Mhm.
if you don't, there's a big issue with that. You mentioned that word pride and pleasing others. Do you feel at this juncture, for you and all this great work that you're doing, and the men that you're working with today, and there's never judgment, not on my part and yours either, Damon, this I know, but are you sensing and feeling that a lot are just so much in the pleasing others and the pride that they can't really get to the core of what the main issue might be or concern that they really have to address and forgive?
Through my own pain and experience, I see how us men, we can isolate ourselves, and that pride, we will anchor ourselves in that because we don't want the change, because we've gotten comfortable. And it's sad but true, but many of us, that's what we do. That pride keeps us right where we are, but it keeps us from being who we need to be, especially for our family first and then everyone else.
I get it. I get it. And beautifully explained. I think that for most of us who are in this process of, I have now, I say, the minister of enlightenment, which is what you're about as well, awareness and awakenings, that's a journey that sooner or later, if you really care and you want to be a change maker and make a difference to support others to do the same, that's what you're doing. I just love the work you're doing, Damon. I'm going to take a quick little reset. My engineer is going to put you in the green room. And when we come back, I want to talk about what you left me with and that it really resonated in so many different ways. But we'll talk about that when I get back. Just hold tight. And what I want to do now is introduce all of you to my Facebook group, Leading Ladies, Leading Legacies. We're on Joyful Mondays, and it's for men and women. And if you're out there and you have a story like Damon to share, then we invite you to come and join us. And if you have a lady, and I'm sure you do, then you need to join us for her vision, her mission, and her purpose to be put out here in the stratosphere. This is a community of women who are only here to serve others in the highest and best element that you can. So I know that you have a need and a purpose that needs to be out into the stratosphere. So let's go back now to the work that we do here, and that's style and presence. And I love what Damon is sharing with us, because even though I work as a signature style specialist, it's much more than just the exterior. But unless we really learn how to adorn these beautiful temples, this vessel, this body that we have, because we're more than the two B's and the V. We have issues. And I don't care what type of whatever you have, it's good to know that this color quiz that we're offering you will give you all the tools that you need to begin, not all, but enough that you can get the seeds working for you, blossoming, so that you'll know what works best for you. Because it's more than that. There are 5 key elements. Today, Damon is talking with us about the 3 pillars that he based his Christian faith on. And I'm talking about the 5 keys and pillars that we talk about with signature style. And I want to put up Damon's graphic. This is a graphic that we're inviting you to take a screenshot. Please take a snapshot and make sure, whether you're in the Christian faith religion or not, he welcomes any, every, and all. If you're open to exploring your journey and sharing it with you, then this is a booklet that you don't want to miss. So make sure you get this, and then we'll go from there. I'm going to go back now, and we'll put this up a little bit later so that you can take another screenshot or snapshot, because that booklet, must admit, I haven't gotten it, but I know Damon, and I know it probably is packed with all kinds of goodies for you. Damon, we talked about briefly, you share with us how you being healed, transformed, and now you're walking in freedom. I love that. I just love it. So tell us how you mention it, and you've given us some keys, but tell us more about how you came to this walking in freedom and what it has done for you and what your intention is and will be doing for so many other men.
Okay. So, in a nutshell, got married in 2001. My wife discovered I was struggling with porn. Brought it into my marriage. We almost got divorced. I'll leave that there, but there's so much more to that. So I'm
Mhm.
sharing this because I got into recovery programs, but I refused to take it seriously. And the
Mm.
reason I know about the deep pride is because I refused to acknowledge I had a problem. The world
Mhm.
told me that there's no problem with pornography. But fast forward 15 years into this particular program, because I didn't jump right into a program, but I can share with you that up until February 16th of last year, I was still struggling. But I made an intentional decision to leave that thing alone, to make sure that I'm running to God and not to myself because of stress and everything else that's uh, pulling my attention, I should say. So when I share that is I had to go through those steps so that I can see that it was keeping me from my originally intended purpose. And there's a scripture in the Bible that says, Jeremiah 1:5, before I formed you in the womb, I knew you, which means I had a purpose before I even came here. And everything that I've gone through with the picture you see behind me is because these things, in a way, were allowed, may not have been caused by God, but I don't look at them as mistakes. I look at them as opportunities, which is what I'm moving into now, is to help other men. And that's where Walk in Freedom Today came from, is because I had to stop making excuses and running to something that
Mm.
was emptiness, guilt, the shame. It was always guilt, shame, the same thing. But then I had to go to another Bible scripture, Romans 8:1. It says, therefore, there is no condemnation for those that are in Christ Jesus. So I was always condemning myself, but I had to break the chains. So that's where another way of where Walk in Freedom came from. And I just released another book and a workbook, but it's geared towards Christian men so that they can break the cycle themselves and equip themselves to defeat Satan's lies. So that's why the passion that I have is because of what I've gone through and what I continue to grow through, not for me, but for others to help them realize that they too can get to the root cause of their purpose, blocking struggles, and walk in that same freedom. And that's the peace that I have, the peace that's always been there for me, which is the most beautiful part, is the transparency and the vulnerability, because many of us men, we run away from that. But without my
Mhm.
wife introducing me to those two words, she said, you have to be more transparent and vulnerable. I need to trust you. And she couldn't trust me
Mm.
because I didn't even trust myself. And that's why she was leading the home, which was totally out of order according to how things were supposed to be. I would always let her lead, but I refused to lead because I had too much trauma and junk in my past that I refused to surrender and say, you know what, I own it, and move forward and use that as stepping stones to become the person that I've always been intended to be, not for me, but for my family and then
Mm.
everyone else, so that I can
Damon. Yeah.
value.
Damon, I have to tell you that it's refreshing for me and for those who will listen and hear the replay here, everyone, because the honesty is refreshing. Refreshing. Because if we don't have that, we cannot really value and appreciate truth, love, and beauty. And it comes in different forms and formats for everyone. And you mentioned that word before, struggle. It is a struggle, but once you begin to, I love your phrase, walking in freedom. I have another friend who says that we reset our mind, we reset everything back to the days when we were not worried, not concerned, before we had all of these program conditioning things that happen to our mind, body, and spirit. So that's what you're doing. And that morality that comes out without judgment is a beautiful thing to behold. But when you say you transformed and that you had a wife and a partner who helped and brought it to your attention, not that you were trying to maybe conceal it, but were you amazed when she was the one who came to you and said, Damon, this is not good, this is not healthy? Were you aware? Did you have any inkling that she knew? How did that come about? Because that's very profound, that's deep.
It is very deep, mainly because all my life before I met my wife, I was a womanizer. So when I met her, it blew my mind because I didn't have any other feelings for any other woman. I was like, God, she was created just for me. And for her to love me and knowing me, knowing my past, my trauma, and I'm like, she loves me. And she could tell you if you had a conversation with her. I'm always asking her, I said, you love me? After 24 years, I'm still looking at her like, wow, you love me? She said, yeah, because he does. I'm like, I still don't, and I get it, but I don't get it. But it's that love that I had never experienced in my life. And that's the reason why I can walk with such authority and knowing who I am and who I belong to. And there are so many other men that need that. But with my wife, her sharing the vulnerability and the being transparent, those were foreign to me because the world had taught me for all my life that those were weaknesses and not strengths. But it's the total opposite now. I know it's a strength to be able to
Mm,
walk in and be comfortable with your emotional aspect. The world tells us men can't cry, men can't this. I said, no, no,
that,
that's what makes you
yeah.
more of a man.
That's
That's what
why,
makes you.
Damon, that's why I say to men and to women, because I'm all about the divine feminine and the divine masculine, no matter which umbrella you're under, that we have to find our way to reset the programming, conditioning, and the sexualizing that we've all been about. And we all do that in different ways. Your way, and I celebrate and applaud you for it. I really commend you for it. I don't put anybody on a pedestal, but was it your wife who brought you into the church, or were you there and found and discovered her there in the church?
I grew up in the church, but I got turned away from the church because
Me
there
too.
was a lot of hypocrisy. So when I turned 18, I ran away from the church because I
Me
didn't want
too.
to have anything to do with God. But God has a sense of humor of how he led me back. And yes, my wife, January of '01, we got married. February of '01, I accepted Christ into my heart. March of '01, I filed personal and business bankruptcy, but that's for another interview and
Yes. Oh my
transparency. But
goodness.
it was because I had fell in love with my stuff. And
Yes.
once I accepted Christ into my heart, I said, you know what? This stuff doesn't mean anything to me because it was all about the people pleasing. You see how that comes back?
I do, and I get it. I know that's why we're here together, Damon, because from the very day that I met you, when I can't remember her name, that beautiful lady who introduced me to you, I felt your vibe and your sense of self worth and knowing, and that's a process. You use that word, which I love, struggle. And so many of us today, we're in this instant society, and we want everything overnight. Things take time. Good things take time. When you're on the journey, sometimes it happens, like you met your wife, and boom, you knew. But it's a journey. And that's what I really think the work that you're doing is so great. You talk about the three pillars, and you might have mentioned them, but what are the three pillars to you?
The three pillars. You're talking about the rejected, abandoned, and bullied?
Yeah, are those the three pillars that you're basing? Okay, got it. Oh,
Yes. So it would be rejected, abandoned, and bullied, to becoming the bully, to being healed, transformed, and now I'm walking in the freedom that's always been available for me.
Isn't
And
that a great feeling, that lightness that you have,
it is.
that love that you have for yourself and then for your wife and all of those people in your extended community, and
It
the
is.
deep admiration and respect they have for you because they feel your love and your goodness and your care and concern? I think that the path that you're on is not to be questioned by any means, of by anyone under any circumstance. And yet, what I heard, and you haven't said it, I say it all the time because people do it not even knowing that they do. No judgment. If somebody came to you and they weren't in the church and they wanted to come to you to gather all of this goodness and information that you're sharing, if they're not in the church, you take them in, even though you're dealing with mainly Christian men. If somebody comes from the outside, you bring them in too, right? Or no?
Of course, I do.
Yeah,
I have an open heart for anyone that wants to change.
there you go.
Anyone
There you
that
go.
wants to change.
That's the secret right there. Damon, I tell you, there are sometimes you don't have words, and nobody has more words than I do. We are at the end here. So, what do you want to leave the audience with? I'm going to ask my engineer just to put up your graphic briefly so we can take a screenshot and a snapshot. But what do you want to leave men and women, but predominantly men, with that's the most important tool that they can take away? The stage is yours.
Well, the tool, it would be more like a question.
Yes.
Ask yourself, is there something that you've been allowing to define you? If there is, why and where did it come from? Ask God to reveal the root cause of that. He reveals it. You have to be willing to surrender that. And that's the first part of your healing. That's how it happens. But be encouraged that even though you're going to experience a lot of opposition, because whenever there's intention, there's always going to be distraction trying to keep you off of what is good for you. because of who you were purposed for to serve them. So
Mm.
stay encouraged on your journey so that you can be the person that you were created to be for others.
Ah, I love
Simple,
it.
but not easy.
I know, not well. We don't talk about. We like easy and quick here, but we don't talk easy because most of us, as my mom would say, with half a brain, we know it takes time. But time is a good thing, and time is irrelevant in many ways. I have to tell you, Damon, I have a couple of people I want you to meet. One, his name is Antoine. You might know of him. He does the same work that you're doing, somewhat with young men and women, but I think you two should meet. And then there's someone else too that you probably know of. Thank you, thank you, thank you. From my heart to
You're
yours,
welcome.
much love. My engineer is going to put you in the green room and I'll be with you in just a second. Don't go anywhere. Friends, I don't know what to say. Sometimes I just said it. There are no words. Damon is someone that you will meet at some point in time, whether it's for you or a gent that you have or a young son that you have, someone who needs his guidance, his love, and his beautiful message of it can be worked through and out for the best, and you can gain and find your purpose. I don't think there's a bigger calling, vision, or purpose than that. It's Monday, so make sure you make this one of the best weeks ever. Enjoy, have fun, and I look forward to seeing you again very, very soon this week. Until then, my friends, much, much love. Always, my heart to your heart. Love. Cheers.